Nah, 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 nah. Ruhim Habaim, welcome back if you are new. Did you miss me? Because I definitely missed you. Today on the agenda we're going to be talking about pretty much why it's important to express your emotions and your feelings and the dangers of what happens when you don't. Dun dun dun! This video is inspired by my own experiences and let's just say I've learned a lot. As per usual, I've divided this topic into sections which you guys can have at your fingertips right down in the description box below. So I'm gonna do a little story time, just a very short story time of how this affected my life personally, because I did mention in one of my previous videos that when I was younger I used to be very passive. And it's crazy because I used to experience a lot of different things when I was younger, but because I didn't know the actual terminology for it, I never could identify with that type of mental condition. But besides just anger, I used to have anxiety all the time. I did not know that was the word for it. I just thought that I was a worrywart from time to time, and just nervousness and being shaky and just being anxious, but I didn't know that that was the word back then. The same thing goes with my anger. I would say I did have a bit of an anger problem, but that again also went under the radar. I was never diagnosed with anything specifically, and now that I'm thinking about it, I think also just me having the love and the dedication for inner work and just learning how to hold myself accountable, but not just the accountability, but to also just relate and reflect on the things of my past to heal from them. I think that's what's put me in a better place. If I didn't choose that route, I would probably be in a worser state or a worse state than how I am now. And I'm saying that because I'm not really in a bad state, but we do struggle from time to time, and it would definitely be a lot harder, a lot worse now if I didn't take those steps previously a few years ago. So when I was younger, I used to grow up in a place where I didn't feel like I could express myself with anyone, and it wasn't just in the household that I lived in, it was even in school. Like when you have a reputation, oh, you're a FITZGERALD, or oh, like, you know, you've heard people say like, oh, I know your parents, like, I don't know, they didn't raise you like this or whatever, and they say certain comments that make you feel like, okay, if I were to show a different part of who I am genuinely, they would think that I'm being someone that I'm completely not, and they would see it as me being disrespectful or rude or with an attitude. So it was so many times when I felt like the minute I needed to express some type of emotion that generally was not positive, I suppressed it. I kept it in, because if I were to show people that I was upset, if I was agitated, irritated, automatically in my mind people would think that I had an attitude. You need to watch the attitude. You need to stop being rude. This, that, and the third. And I constantly had to deal with that throughout my whole entire childhood. And even when I was upset and I couldn't hide it anymore, it was even to that extent, I feel like I could not talk to someone about exactly what I was going through. I did not feel like I would be understood, like I would be fully heard and respected. Even if they couldn't understand personally what I was going through, I did not feel safe. And I think that that is the biggest word, is feeling safe. When someone opens up to anyone, it's because they feel safe, they feel comfortable. And as a kid, honestly, I don't really think that I felt that 100%. And with kids, it's different than being adults, because even as if you're an adult, even if you don't feel 100% there yet, sometimes we do have that willpower to just release it anyways. But as kids, I feel like you have to have that adult, you have to have at least that one responsible, respectable human being, or that adult that you feel like you can go to no matter what. And when I was younger, I felt like I didn't have control over who I was able to talk to, and in that point and aspect, it caused me to just suffer away internally and just keeping everything that I was feeling inside. So over time, as I got older, especially in my high school days, I just learned how to just be silent. And there is a beauty and there's an art in silence, but only to the point when you know exactly how to deal with it and how to handle it for certain context. But in this context, when it comes to my emotions, being silent was not the answer. It was not the solution. It was only adding and feeding into the problem. And so from there on out, I pretty much kind of just dealt with suffering inside. And so if there was a point in time when I was just going through something, even if, like, for example, one of my sisters would ask, like, "Nay, what's going on? Like, you just seem off," or like, "Is everything okay?" It got to the point where I could not even speak. And that is also an unknown symptom of anxiety and just passiveness in general, is you don't talk, you don't speak. And it wasn't on purpose. Like, I wasn't trying to purposely give people the silent treatment, but when someone's asking you what's wrong and you're just so deep down under, like deep in your problem mentally, there's like, and emotionally, like there's no way that I can just freely just say, like, throw up all the things that I've been pushing down for so long. It was so hard for me to just, and I get, like, people might not understand, like, I don't understand that makes no sense, but just think of it similarly to like a mental illness. And I'll keep using anxiety and depression because those seem to be like some of the main top ones that people go through. But say, for example, you're trying to explain to someone, yeah, I deal with depression or I deal with anxiety, and that person might not understand because they've never really had to go through it themselves. Well, can't you just do this? Or like, what, can't you just do that instead? Or whatever it is that they'll say to you. And you know for yourself that that's not how you have to go about it. You have to deal with it a different way. So it sounds a lot easier than how it actually is. If someone's talking to me and they're like, "Nay, like, you need to say something. Like, you being silent is not helping me. It's not helping you." And I'm just sitting there just like in a negative space, and to everybody looking from the outside in, it makes no sense to them why it's so hard for me to say just anything. But from being the person who's on the inside looking outwardly, they have no idea. So in this point in time, I had no idea what the definition of passive even was, probably at that time. Didn't even know that I was doing it. But again, when you do a lot of inner work, when you try and look into yourself, you try and find yourself and just try and heal, over time you learn. And so passive in the way of, I was irritated, I was angry, I was upset, and I would just act neutral. I would act like nothing was bothering me, or even if something was bothering me, maybe you could be able to see it a little bit, but I kept that inside of me and I didn't want to express it verbally. So let me just make that clear. I didn't want to express it verbally, but I would do things to make people aware that something was wrong. I just verbally didn't want to say it. And a lot of that resulted in me being standoffish. A lot of it resulted in me not wanting to be around other people. No, you just know. And I just shut everyone out pretty much. And I do certain things, or I would say certain things, but nothing to do with how I was feeling. And that is not healthy, and it's also very toxic, which is why, like, even if you've seen some of my earlier videos, like from a year or two ago, and I've addressed toxic people, some toxic people are people who are going through mental illnesses that we just have to grow and heal from. But I'm saying, again, hold yourself accountable, because there have been probably many times when I did not know how to express myself the proper way, and it might have turned off to be very negative towards the people around me. And for them being in a relationship with me, they could have seen me as somewhat toxic for that period in time. And I'm not saying that to make anybody feel bad, but I'm just saying that we have to be honest with ourselves, or else if we're gonna make progress, you know? If we're not honest, then what progress can be made? So you might be saying, okay, Nay, well, you just talked about emotion and you gave us your little story time of you keeping things in and being passive and all this other stuff, but like, I'm going through this right now, you didn't give me any tips on how to do it. Well, I'm glad to see it, because here are the tips that I have for you to help you with your emotions, how to deal and express them the right way. So first of all, identify what feeling you're going through. You could be worried, you could be sad, you could be angry, you could be irritated. It's a whole bunch of emotions that humans deal with on a regular basis, and the number one thing to do first is to identify it. What is it that you are feeling? If you don't know what you're feeling, then you can't really get to the root of the problem. But if you identify first what you're feeling, then that's the first step into getting to that progress where you can express it. The second thing that you need to do after you've identified that feeling is know and remember that your feelings are valid. So I'm going to use myself as an example, as the guinea pig for this video. But let's just say that I'm irritated because something happened. So number one, identify the fact that I am irritated. Naomi is irritated. Number two, I have to remember that my feelings and my emotions are valid. So instead of pushing it off and being like, I feel irritated, but I feel like people are gonna think that I'm just being irritated for no reason, or I'm upset about this for no reason, I need to remember, no, you know what, Naomi? This happened to you. You didn't like it. You didn't like what you saw. You didn't like what you heard. It made you have a feeling, an emotion of being irritated, and that is valid. You are allowed to feel that way. When you give yourself that room to just feel like you have a right to do and to be a certain way, the judgment goes away. And I think that that's the big point in the picture, is that it's the judgmental sides of things. We tend to keep things in. We tend to push away our emotions. Why? Because we're afraid of what people are gonna say or what people think about us the minute we want to express that we're mad about something. Why are you mad? You have no reason to be mad. That right there, you need to ignore that and scooch it out the way, because if it is something that really did affect you, then be mad. Even if you are being defensive, even if you get easily offended, your feelings are still valid. You just need to know how to express them better, and then also do a little bit of inner work. That way, over time, the things that people say and do, they won't offend you easily as much. And then the third thing is to process those feelings. So once I have identified that I'm irritated, and I remember that being irritated is valid, like I have every right to feel that way, then I'm going to process them in the ways that help me. So there are different ways that we can process our emotions. You can journal. You can cry it out. You can talk to a friend in person or over the phone. The feeling or emotion that you might be feeling is because maybe a difficult discussion needs to be had. So you might have to process it in a way that might be harder than for other people to do, which you might have to just have a hard conversation. If there are things that you know directly that you can do, or just cause yourself to be in that space that can help you and ease you and just make you feel more at peace, do some deep breathing. If you're at home or wherever you're at, go for a walk. Walks really tend to clear your mind, just make you feel at ease and just make you feel good. Trust me, I would know. I do like my 3-mile walking every single day at 5 o'clock at the track. So I would know the benefits of walking. Really, like, they really help just start my day off right. You have to know for yourself what helps you the most. So if it's doing something active or doing something more of like a hobby, whether it's music or artsy fartsy like painting, drawing, sketching. And I did mention journaling before, but you don't even have to journal. Just write what's on your mind. Write a poem, write some spoken word. Like whatever floats your boat to help you process what you're going through, then do that. But it's far better to express than to suppress. Trust me on this. Get rid of the cage, okay? Do not put your emotions in a cage. Do not put your emotions in a place where you keep pushing it down and pushing it down, kind of like the garbage when you don't want to take it out, and it just keeps getting fuller and fuller, and you think fuller and fuller, and you think that by pushing it down some way, somehow, it's gonna make extra room to add all the rest of your garbage. But eventually there's not gonna be room for anything anymore, and you're gonna have to take that trash out. So I'm doing this as a visual example. Don't do that with your emotions. If you're feeling angry one day, instead of putting it in your trash can, express it, okay? Express it, put it out there, okay? Get rid of it, process it, and be done with it. Because you keep adding in your anger, then you add in your sadness, and then you add in your self being irritated, and then you add in yourself being upset over something and being petty over something else and this, that, and third and blah, blah, blah. And it keeps piling up and piling up and piling up and piling up and piling up. And now you have this whole big garbage bag filled with your emotions that will eventually rise to the surface again or bust out of the bag because they're just so much and it's too heavy for you to carry alone anymore, instead of processing those things the minute they come. Which one makes more sense? A or B? The piled up pieces of emotions or the processed up pieces of emotion? And when you also learn how to process your emotions in a good way, not only are you showing emotional maturity, which is a video that I did post recently, but not only are you showing that you are emotionally mature, but you're becoming a better person just altogether. You become, and it's not even about being happy, it's just about like genuine joy and doing things with intention. Just knowing that we got 101 problems, but my emotions are not one of them. That's the key, because your emotions, they follow you wherever you go. You can't run away from your emotions. They're constantly there, and until you process them, they're not gonna go away. Trust me. Even if it feels like you put them away momentarily, they're gonna rise to the surface again. Trust me. They will. They most definitely will. So that brings us to the close of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please, please, please don't forget to self-care, and we're out. Peace out.